Well, if you listen to conversations, they're like a maze. Sometimes you end up where you were before, and sometimes you end up you know not where, and you need God's view of the maze, and you can see from above, very quickly, the way out and the way that's not out. And the maze seems extremely complicated when you're in it. And you may hope to come across someone in the maze who knows the way out, but then what would they be doing in the maze? You don't go into a maze, really, if you know the way out. Well, perhaps you do sometimes. You use it in a completely different way. Perhaps you wisely assist someone who wants to go into the maze but wants to be sure of being able to get out again. Well, in a sense, that's what a religion's meant to be. The reliable way out, but so often the religion is lost in its own misunderstandings. And so itself is part of and in the maze. But, and then you think, of course, if you think of it from God's point of view, well, you're not in the maze. You're with God. It's a self-fulfilling solution. So quite simply, God knows the way out, and you don't. So you need the company of God. How on earth do you gain that? Oh, very simply. Whatsoever is good and lovely, think on these things. Your desire for him will grow at a fantastic rate, and your devotion to him. You come to know God, to understand God, to have the understanding of God. To know him is to have the understanding of God. You can only know him with his mind, and you gain that by devotion. In particular, devotion to the good, which to some extent you naturally do for survival. Although you could say most people survive only long enough to not survive. Whereas you want to survive just long enough to know the way out and take it. And the maze is for this reason, that you long to know the way and seek it with all your heart. And the way is the way of goodness, of course. So you choose good company, good media, if you like, good everything, good environment, but truly good, not just whatever takes your fancy, but increasingly what you find to be reliably good. Honesty, kindness, peace instead of anger, help instead of war, blessings instead of cursings in the extreme, light instead of darkness. Goodness instead of fatness. And what goodness is, that which brings life And what's badness? That which destroys it. That which brings happiness, not that which brings unhappiness. So you find there are simple rules that you need to know. And ideally we learn those in childhood. Mum and Dad teach us that. They don't just leave us in the dark. They give us the light of reason and understanding, good habits, of intention and protection. And then we spend our adult life, ideally, perfecting such. And find we are sent to be a blessing to others. And in earnest blessing to others, we find we've blessed our own self. But we have expanded our sense of self to include others. We've moved nearer to expanding ourselves, to knowing God. It's as simple as that, really. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. So keep good company, dear one, or you'll go round and round in circles. And if you are helping someone, well, they need to have the algorithm, because you won't be with them always. You may not be with them even in an hour or two's time. And their mind will go back to the immediacy of the maze that they're in. And forget the algorithm, or lose hope again in the algorithm. I mean, you know, Jesus' words, aren't they? I am the way, walk ye in it. Don't follow from too great a distance, or you lose sight of him very easily. And in fact, the way is to know and to seek to know your Heavenly Dad. And in that sense, the story of Jesus is meant to be a good example for you. But you tend to read it and see it in terms of it being a story. And you then put the book down and carry on living in the maze. Whereas you need to be, well, trying what the story seems to say. And sometimes you'll get it wrong. It doesn't seem to work. So you need to find the essence of the story that is reliable, and not the other polite chats and gracious patiences while you ramble on in your discourse, instead of coming back to being single-mindedly concerned with the right way and inquiring accordingly. Seek and you shall find. For everyone that seeketh findeth. What is the way? What is the algorithm? Oh, very simple. Whatsoever is good and lovely, think on these things. You will find a great love of God within you. and then you follow accordingly. His way out. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Oh, I forgot to mention, because the way out is the loving of God. You're only in the maze to find the algorithm. How do you mean? I mean, the way out is to see God as your Heavenly Dad. And to do that, all you need to do is practice whatsoever is good and lovely. Think on these things. And the reality of God comes to you. You have the way out. It is to love God. Well, the loving of God makes you seek the way out, that's true, but there's no need. He lifts you out of it. You can stay in the maze a little longer and help others if you wish. Let them know the way out, which is to know God, your God, and how to do it. Whatsoever is good and lovely, think on these things. But the mind wanders off, because you don't love God yet. But the more you look on that which is good and lovely, the more you value God and seek Him. And that is to love. And once you have the love of God, there's no point in you being in the maze. You found what you were looking for. It wasn't the way out. It was who God is. Oh. And of course what you're thinking is everything to who you are. I mean, we can put it in terms of you are your values, but your values are what's driving what you're thinking. And those values are attachments to all sorts of things. But when you start to realize the difference between good and bad, and you're attached to the good, well, you're attached to God. You are the way out. You transcend. You rise above the maze. You're no longer in it.